You are listening to the Southwestern American Choral Directors Association Connections podcast, where we will interview choral directors, leaders, and movers and shakers within our region. I'm your host, Dr. Jeff Wall. We hope you enjoy these conversations. Please like and subscribe this YouTube channel for future content. Hello, everyone. Another great connection for you today with Dr. Amon Eady. He currently serves as the Director of Choral Activities at Central Michigan University, where he conducts 4 ensembles and teaches undergraduate and graduate choral conducting and choral literature. Before arriving at CMU, Dr. Eady taught at both the middle school and high school levels for 9 years at White Station Community in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was named the Tennessee Music Educator of the Year in 2014. As always, you'll find his complete bio down in the description of this video. Again, I encourage you to go down there and take a look at his full bio and accomplishments, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with Dr. Amon Eady. Okay, hello everybody. We're here with Dr. Amon Eady. Am I pronouncing your last name right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
Perfect. I want to make sure I do it justice. Great. Well, thanks for joining us to let us know a little bit more about you. On that same vein, will you tell us about you, about your place in the world and what you do, and maybe your musical upbringing and influences?
Sure. I'm the Director of Choirs at Central Michigan University. This fall is going to be my 7th year doing that. I was, and also that's the only time I've spent in Michigan or north of Tennessee in my whole life. I'm from the South. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, mostly, and my parents and brothers are still there. My dad was my band teacher, and also he was a church musician and a singer. So I grew up in dad's bands, and mom was my theater teacher. So any singing was really for church or mom's plays. So I don't know. I don't think I really had a chance at a normal life. It was always going to be something like this. So I went to school at Southern Mississippi to study to be a band teacher. I was a trumpet player, and they hired a new choir guy down there, Greg Fuller, who's still there, and he really just set things ablaze. And I started singing in his choirs, and he convinced me to stay and get a master's degree with him when I was done. And even though my father really frowned upon that because I hadn't done any teaching yet, I was pretty sure I was really sure I wanted to teach choir. So when I was done with that, I taught public school in Memphis, Tennessee for 9 years, middle school and high school. And then I went back to graduate school at Florida State University to get my doctorate, and then straight here. So yeah, it's a little bit of a unique background, I guess, for a choral conductor. I didn't sing in choir in high school. At school, I sang in a pretty solid, like, church youth choir. I went to a church affiliated private school, and that church had a youth choir that was pretty good, a pretty serious choral director guy. And in fact, when I would go to my first ACDA convention years later in Texas, I ran into him. And I remember thinking, man, he's a really serious choir guy. He's over here at the ACDA convention. So that was my first real choral influence. And then, yeah, Greg Fuller at Southern Miss, and studying with Andre Thomas and Kevin Fenton and Judy Bowers at Florida State. Those are big influences on me. And that's the short version of the story. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, sounds like you've got a super interesting pedigree there, and we have Tennessee in common a little bit in our backgrounds. I went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville.
Oh, cool.
For the
Nice.
master's work. Yeah, for the master's work. Well, cool, man. Can you tell us then about what you're going to do for us with Southwestern ACDA and what you're looking forward to there?
Yeah. I am conducting the 7th through 9th grade tenor bass choir. So, that's just, I love working with young tenor bass voices. That's always fun. As a tenor singer myself, it's fun to get in there with them and kind of just, go for it. I had a lot of I was lucky to have success in that area as a public school teacher, with building up center bass, participation and singing. And it's really fun and unique to watch especially that age. I don't know that I've ever done 7th through 9th grade tenor basses only. I don't know if I've ever done that. But that's a great age. I'm excited. I know the event. I mean, the communication from everyone has been really consistent and clear. And if anybody's waiting on anything, they're waiting on me to turn something in or something. So I'm looking forward to the whole thing. Colorado will be very nice. And I know coming out of COVID, sometimes expectation for participation is just all over the place, even in SWACDA and even in, and ACDA is honor choirs are kind of an interesting thing too. So, but hopefully it'll be, I think we're anticipating that the numbers will continue to rise coming out of COVID. That'd be cool. So I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think these singers are going to be really interested to work with you. So we're glad to
Cool.
have you on. So now let's dig into a little bit to some weird questions connected with you and
Yeah.
choral music. So what's a piece of music that you think best embodies your personality?
My gosh. Okay. So I did give these some thought. So I have answers, but I still feel, yeah. Okay. So this one, I think there's this, Herbert Howells has this like Nuke Dimitis piece setting that it's very short. It's the tail end of a set of things. I think it's like Magnificat and Nuke Dimitis. And anyway, it just starts off with like a tenor solo, which is cool. And it's organ accompaniment. And then it's just very like grandiose, like big overarching lines, soprano lines, and the whole choir comes in. And it just it's like that English choral anthem with organ thing. And so it's got a little quiet start to it with the solo, but then it feels like you could just kind of sing as loud as you want to and it won't matter. So I had a friend tell me how much he liked that piece the other day, and I was like, oh, we sang that, we recorded that piece during COVID actually, for our state conference. We recorded our performance, and we sang that piece because we have a really nice organ at our school, and it was very, very cool. I think that kind of music, if I have to choose, because it's got the little tenor solo in it, there's still nuance, but you can kind of just let it go too, which I like to do. So that's my choice.
Right on. So that's you in a nutshell.
I hope. Yeah, I guess that's me.
That's a,
Totally.
yeah,
Totally encompasses me.
it's a hard, weird question, but yeah, I
I
love
like
that
it.
piece.
Yeah.
I love that piece too. We did it a few years back, so it's
Oh, cool.
it's
Yeah, and
rocking.
not super complicated. Like not
No,
yet. Maybe 2 or 3, 4 minutes long, maybe at the most.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
why we did
cool.
it, because it was accessible for us. I'm
Yeah,
at
yeah.
not a kind of
Very-
small university, so it worked out well for us. So
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
great choice. Okay, so what is a desert island choral piece? Only one that you could have with you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man, this is gonna be hard. I mean, I have several in my brain. I don't want to be boring and stay in the same genre, but man, uh there's a Charles Wood is another like English late 19th century, I guess. He has a hail gladdening light, like a double choir. It's a motet though, like only about 4 minutes long or so. Little bit of everything in there. I love that piece of music. I'm thinking of the friend who turned me on to that composer and that music, and also kind of accessible for. I mean, it's 8 parts, but it's like it's very obvious that the soprano ones, alto one, tenor bass ones are supposed to be choir 1, 2s are choir 2, just kind of set just underneath them, and you just kind of go back and forth, and parts are not hard to read. But it's just beauty from beginning to end. I think if I had to listen to one thing over and over again, that's probably it. I'm stuck in the English choral school. Sorry.
No, that's all right. That sounds like that might be your jam. I
I
like that.
guess. Yeah. Love
Oh,
it.
cool. Okay, well, talk to us a little bit about a philosophy of programming, if you have one.
Okay. Yeah. my favorite thing to do is to challenge my singers to really have to maybe like try more than one approach to singing because of the style changes in the program. I think that's really fun to do. I mean, like to really try it. As a singer, maybe it's because I'm a singer at heart and I like a lot of different kinds of music, but it wouldn't be unusual for us to sing like a like maybe a Mendelssohn motet, and then maybe like Gene Perling, and maybe a spiritual on the same concert, even though that is really all over the place. like um, it is really fun for me to try to get singers to do that, and to like sort of accomplish what's intended for each one of those pieces vocally. I think that's really hard. It's hard to find choirs that'll, I mean, the really good ones can do it, but that's always been a fun challenge for me. I think that's creativity for me. I watch some of my colleagues, some people that are so amazing at giving these like themed concerts, and I do that sometimes too, programming according to a theme. I think it's really cool, but I don't think I'm that creative to be able to really do it like some of my colleagues. I marvel at the things some people come up with. For me, that sort of trying to get in and out of several different styles that are really unique to each other is a fun way I like to program. I try to do it, and we do themes. We'll do like a unity concert every year in the winter, in the early second semester, that'll have like a social justice sort of theme to it or something like that. And so we definitely do themes, and we give a winter Christmas sort of concert. um but like I said, I think I get and that's fun to try to be creative in that way. But I'm always still looking for, okay, how can we really mix it up in terms of style of singing? I really like that. That's something I think you could count on with my programming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. A mentor of mine used to refer to it as like shifting gears in a manual transmission.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to.
And without hurting your voice, or it's or whatever, causing trauma. it's
Yeah,
it's challenging.
absolutely. Yeah, I enjoy that answer. That's cool. Okay, so then what would you say a typical rehearsal might look like under your direction?
Yeah. So one moment of transparency. I talk about this a lot. All my rehearsals are in the afternoon right now, and I feel that I've gotten pretty lazy when it comes to warm-ups because we meet in the afternoon, and my choirs are at least half full of people who have probably been singing in some capacity earlier that day. So um often I won't do a real warm-up. Sometimes I may do something out of our folder or start something that's not very taxing range wise, or can serve as sort of a warm up. Um, I like to run through things that I've asked the students to have looked at already in class. That's something I've started organizing my rehearsals ahead of time, trying to get better and better about doing that, and sort of challenging them with that. Um, I remember with Judy Bowers, like doing all this in methods class, doing all this stuff about um, research on task and off task behaviors and noticing them. And it was really fun doing all that. So I have to say, you can always count on some off task. I will have to take a break from on task mentally and just say something that might not have anything to do with, I just I'll change gears. So there's usually some sort of brief pause and we may have a light moment, laughing or whatever. That's um unless we're in a hurry or something, that's a sure thing that happens in all my rehearsals. Some sort of just sort of checking in with everybody, talk about something that doesn't have anything to do with our mission as a choir for that moment musically, as long as it doesn't take more than a couple of minutes. I always do that, sort of learning to give myself permission to, it's okay that I do that. I mean, I need it. I need to stop and breathe, and, you know, maybe we talk about something else for 90 seconds.
Yeah, I love that. It's part of just being human, making that
Yeah,
connection. Yeah.
yeah, I like for people to be, because I can be intense. Like, I mean, we're getting the music ready and I can be intense. And as I get older, I feel like I'm getting less intense and more, um, whatever you call this, more comfortable with taking a couple of minutes to see how everybody's doing, or share a story or something that happened to me earlier that day, or talk about another event. I got a lot of, music theater students in my choirs, or performance majors who may have other things going on. So yeah.
Love that. I love that you take a little time to disconnect from the mission at hand and just to check in. So that's great.
Yeah.
What pointers might you have for an emerging choral leader?
Yeah. Well, man, this is like, I'll try not to just blab on and on. The first thing is, I think, I just kind of notice these things in my students, and my students when they start teaching, things I want them to know and remember, um, and lessons that I learned. Um, I think a lot of my students worry about their abilities as a conductor, or their ability at the piano, or their ability to hear things and know what's wrong and diagnose. And you and I both know that um, some of that you might be able to do right away, but a lot it comes with time. That you hear things 10 years later that you didn't hear at first. Maybe you just had too many other things going on in your brain. I think that I'd love for my students to not worry so much about that stuff, like choosing good repertoire for your students, and being a good, um you sort of your administrative chops, or being organized and prepared. That stuff seems, you know, more important at the beginning to me. Seems like, um I'd rather be, listening to my old recordings and think, oh man, we weren't so good back then. We're better now, but why didn't I hear that? I'd rather have that experience than have like some sort of administrative disaster, which we've all been there. Something. I think that kind of stuff is not the stuff that's not taught maybe as much, or focused on as much in school or in their teacher training. Choosing repertoire is huge. Whenever I judge a festival, most people's success is determined on whether or not the piece of music fit the ensemble is huge. And then I'd probably just go down a whole bunch of a long list of, like, don't get wrapped up in social media too much. Don't worry about what other people are doing unless you're trying to learn something from your colleagues, which is a great idea. Get in touch with people around you who do the same thing as you. Reach out. But yeah, stay focused on your students and what you're doing, um, and don't worry so much with uh, other things that may contribute to some sort of feeling of competitiveness, or that you're not doing enough, or because you see online it looks like these other people are, saving the choral world. I'd probably go down a long list of things like that for young choral, emerging choral. Just focus on the value you're creating right there with your people, and in your community. It's very rewarding to do that. That never gets old. So that's a handful of things I would say.
Yeah, but that's digestible, I think, without going into a full long, choral
Right.
method and philosophy course. But that's,
Right.
that's exactly what we need. And you and I both know at the points in our career that, we were all angsty and wrapped up in a tightly wound ball
Yeah.
earlier on in our career. And I think that's perfect advice for somebody that's just coming through.
Sure.
Yeah. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
So what do you do to relax and fight burnout?
Oh yeah. I try to, even when I go, I mean, I have two children who are 11 and 13. So I have enough distractions at home if I let myself be plugged in at home, which can be hard for me sometimes to, like, detach and let myself detach from what's going on at work. But that's the easiest way to do it, is just focus on my family and what's going on at home, and just try to forget about work or whatever, at least for a few hours. That's an accomplishment for me. So maybe, and to really get my brain to go in a different direction, maybe a podcast or a TV show or something that I'm interested in. um or yeah, or checking in with whatever's going on with my kids, and my wife. Um give my attention to them, because that's a good thing to do anyway. And then also, it gets me out of my obsession. And recently I've been exercising more than I used to, which is also a good thing. I wouldn't say it's my favorite thing yet, but I'm liking it more than I used to. So there you go.
Well, aside from, being a fellow bald and bearded man, I think we might be the same person. So that's great. Okay. So we're going to get into the Seychelles Rondo round now.
Okay.
And just quick fire questions. You don't have to think too hard about them.
Sure.
I think I've only sent you one that maybe required a little more thought, but I'll
Right.
try to shoot these from the hip.
Okay.
So what's the worst job you've ever had outside of choral music?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if which would be worse. I had to work for I got in some trouble in ninth grade. My dad made me get a summer job with the landscaping company. And so I was just like on this crew doing landscaping all day long for most of my summer. So I was like in really good shape, but I hated that. I used to also, in high school, I worked at a drugstore, like a Rite Aid kind of thing, and that got kind of boring. Um, Other than that, because we do what we love for a living, and I've always done things that had something to do with music almost back that far. So I'm pretty lucky, but those were pretty rough. I did not enjoy those.
Yeah, I can see why. Okay. So what is your guilty pleasure bad food to eat?
Oh man. Oh, you know what? I should be ashamed, but just like like McDonald's, like just the fast food that you're supposed to stay away from. Like, I don't, why is it so good? Why does it taste so good no matter what? I mean, I could go 6 months eating healthy and think, oh, that fast food is so disgusting. But if I get a taste of just a little cheeseburger from McDonald's or a chicken nugget, and I know it's so bad for me, doesn't matter. Or and the other one, they go hand in hand, is a soda. Like it's impossible for me to resist like a cherry Coke, which I know is so bad for me. That's like worse than a candy bar. So it's bad.
Yeah, it's hard, man. That's
Ugh.
those are two things also that take me off the health path. So I get it.
Right, right.
If you had to do any other job besides being a musician of some kind, what would that be?
Ooh, um, I dreamed of being a baseball player when I was younger. But like a realistic job, maybe in relation to that, maybe coaching. I could see myself. There's a lot of similarities. I did some coaching when I was a middle school teacher. I wasn't the head coach, and it was really fun. We started having kids. My wife was like, "You need to come home in the afternoon. This is not, So I gave it up. But that's probably what I would do. Some sort of, I mean, that would be fun. Coaching something, baseball. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. What is well, two choices here. You can choose between these, or you can answer both, whatever your choice is. But what's the scariest moment in your life, or what is your biggest phobia?
Ooh, scariest moment. I'll come back to that one. My phobia, I have a weird thing about like like blue jean material on my fingers. Like like doing like this it drives me nuts. I don't like the feeling of it. I know it's really weird. This is just shooting from the hip.
No, that's fine.
That's
Like a little
one.
texture
Yes,
issue.
a texture thing. Oh yeah, I
Okay.
hate it. And then scariest moment. Um, uh, I don't know. I remember seeing I remember seeing like a courthouse in, like, I want to say Greenville or something, Alabama. It was supposed to be haunted and has this like face imprint, like a ghost looking imprint in the window, and you can go see it. And I went and saw it. That springs to mind. I was pretty young. It was pretty scary at the time. And looking back on it, I don't think that's very scary. Um, I don't know, frightening moment.
I don't know. That's pretty good, man.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
introducing my kids to the Indiana Jones series, and
Oh yeah.
they're crazy scared of them right now. So
Yes, yes,
so
yeah.
those little things as a kid stay with you. So
Yes, I can remember some images from the Indiana Jones movies that stayed with me for sure. Yep.
right. Okay, if you could have any four people on the choral Mount Rushmore, who would you choose?
Okay, I did give this one a lot of thought because you put it in there, and I couldn't answer it without thinking about it. So, all right, I'm gonna say, uh, I'm gonna sound like some sort of history nerd or an academic, which I am not. I just happen to know a little bit about these guys, and when you know something, you kind of like gravitate towards it. And okay, so I'm gonna say Joseph Haydn. I think like the masses at the end of his career, and the making the mass a concert work, not for liturgy, like really just a standalone. His role in that was pretty huge for choral music going forward, I think, right? But going into the romantic era, um, yeah. And then Mendelssohn would be one. Uh, he's the one that I think exposed everyone to Bach's music. Uh, I think that's a big deal. It was a big festival he used to like perform someone else's music and then open up the floodgates of all this unknown Bach music. He also wrote stuff for treble choir only and TB choir only back then, which I think is cool. Um, and he's just kind of a favorite of mine. That's kind of cheating, but that's okay. I'm going in chronological order, by the way. This one I thought of the group, and so I had to go look up who started the group. And I think I was going towards like Black choral music in America. That was in my, and so I got to thinking. I think I'm going to say, I think his name is George White, George L. White. He was the guy who started the Fisk Jubilee Singers. I think that is one of the most important moments in choral music in America. Um, some of those early, like in my research in school, I was writing about the history of Florida State's choral department. So I had to do some broader, like, okay, the history of choral music in America and like work my way down. And so I was reading about, all those guys like Peter Lutkin at Northwestern and St. Olaf and all these choirs at the end of the 19th century that started beginning of the 20th century that were touring a cappella choirs for the first time. And then like as a little side note, somewhere I read something like asterisk, even though the Fisk Jubilee Singers started in 1871 touring. And I just think that's so cool that we had a Black touring choir, collegiate choir, like 5 years after the Civil War, bringing Black music to, and they sang for the president, they sang for the Queen of England, they toured Europe. It's so wild. And of course I don't remember learning much about this in school, of course. So that really struck me. I was like, okay, yeah, the concertized spiritual, what an incredible piece of Black American, folk American music that is.
yeah, I
Uh,
agree that, and
uh,
what a shame and detriment to our education that was an asterisk whenever we were kind of going
yeah,
through.
what do I,
I think some of that's being rectified now, but
yo, sure. Yeah, and I went to school. I went to school with a guy named Marcus Garrett, who is really becoming a voice in uh, a scholarly voice in the history of Black choral music. He's big into Nathaniel Dett, and I think that was part of it too. Being in school with Marcus and learning a little bit more about that from him. But like, yeah, right there in Tennessee, we have this like legacy of a black choral ensemble that the school was like in dire need of money, and the treasurer at the school started like a 12-person choir, and they went out on tour to raise money, and they did this like before those other choirs were touring. So I don't know, I thought that was pretty awesome. That was a good way to like encapsulate black choral music into one person or one group if I can. Okay, and then the last one's really obvious, but I think Robert Shaw, just bringing later on in my studies, reading about Robert Shaw. And I used to really roll my eyes about grew up in the band world. And when I got to Florida State, people just worship Robert Shaw. And me and my friends, my colleagues, we kind of laugh about it. But there is a long history there of him doing all these concerts at Florida State with his Atlanta orchestra, all through the 80s and 90s, all these collaborations. But I'd say Robert Shaw, because I think right after that era of touring a cappella choir, we had glee clubs and touring a cappella choirs, but we didn't have professional choral music that was seen on the same level as orchestral professional, So I think you got to just tip your cap to Robert Shaw for bringing our craft up to that and inspiring so many people. I think I'd be remiss to not put him up there he did a lot, but definitely that bringing like choral music up to a place of professional performance expectation and repertoire and all that stuff. So there you go. I thought about that one. I thought about those a lot.
Yeah, well, those are good answers. Your last one, I think, is going to be a common answer, and
Oh, sure.
Rightly so. What's something that you spend way too much money on?
Oh my gosh. Subscriptions that I didn't realize I still had. Like this is the bane of my existence. Like the New York Times for $4.99, and then the trial period ends and now it's $17.99 and I have to cancel it, or XM radio or whatever it is. That's gotta be it. Subscriptions on my credit card that I don't even know are there.
Well, I think
Netflix is
we
like
can all
four
relate to that
times.
one. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
all
yeah.
yeah.
Totally.
That's a hard one to remember. So what is a secret talent that most people might be surprised to learn about you?
Oh man. Hmm. Well, two things come to mind. I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but I'm a pretty good singer, and people are surprised to know that I can sing by myself. Like, do you ever get this, like this choir director stereotype that we can't sing, so we like teach other people to sing, so my whole career, my students have, I didn't know you could sing like that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I should be able to sing. So that seems kind of silly, but that's one. And then I'm pretty into, for a music guy, I was really into sports when I was growing up, and I can play, and I'm pretty good with sports and athletics. Not I was nothing special, but I know I have a lot of colleagues in the music world who have no connection to that world because it's like either this or that. And I was lucky enough to have like some time in both worlds. So that's probably the other one.
Yeah, that's similar for me too, and
Yeah.
great lessons from both worlds.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, wrapping up here.
Mhm.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
This one's changed over the years. I mean, people always say flying, but I've never said flying. I think if like at this point, I'm gonna say if time travel was a superpower, I'd do that. I'd do that. I don't know if that would be if I would end up being glad that I did that or not, but I might regret it, but time travel, if we could consider that a superpower, that'd be mine. I think that's my answer for now.
Okay, so we'll start calling you Marty McFly.
Yeah. Oh
Okay.
man.
Right on. Okay, so you've achieved tempo presto. Congratulations, you've made it through the Acceleron round.
Nice.
Okay,
Great.
what is who is another choral musician you'd like to lift up?
Oh yeah. Well, Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but Jeff and I were college roommates, and the most of the rest of my cohort of the conductors at SWACDA, I know them all very well. And I'm gonna go with Jabari Glass. He's doing the high school choir. Jabari and I have sort of similar, we're different, but we have some similar philosophies on certain things. And I think he's a very sort of underrated or under the radar, fabulous choral conductor and person, an educator. Anybody would be incredibly lucky to have him work with their students or work at their school. I've known him for many years, and yeah, Murdoch gets enough attention, so I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
Jabari Glass as my person.
Well,
Yeah.
that's who Murdoch lifted up too. So
Did he?
you're in good company. And
Yeah.
I mentioned that Jabari's over at University of South Carolina. I got my doctorate over there, but I haven't had the chance to meet him or see him work yet. So I'm looking forward to that. And I know
Oh,
everybody's going to have a great time working with him in the honor choir. So he's going to do some great work
yeah.
for us too.
He's great. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so what are your goals for 2024 or maybe next academic year coming up? What are you looking forward to?
We have an alumni concert. It's the first time. I've been here for 7 years, and I'm going to do an alumni event, which I'm excited about. Start a little newsletter, email list, and we're going to sing the Mozart Requiem in April and have alumni come back and sing in the chorus, and the soloists will all be alumni. That's cool. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to this in Denver. And we've had some success bringing in really good classes of freshmen the past couple years after COVID, and so I'm excited to see that continue and to work with to get back on the trend of working with a satisfactory or size group of freshmen who are all, it doesn't feel like the end of the world, and we're kind of back. I want to see that continue. I'm really excited about that. So that would be 3 things right off the bat for this coming year. Yeah.
All right, love it. Lastly, what can people do to get in touch with you if they want to connect?
Yeah, I'm not a big social media. I don't post on social media hardly ever, but I am there. They can find me. It's not hard. And then also email me. I really do love to connect with people or answer questions or offer myself in any way that I can. I just got through working at Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp for a couple weeks, and I work with high school and college students there. And we don't have any electronics and stuff out there, so I'm always telling them, hey, if you need a letter of recommendation, find me online. Don't forget, I'm happy to help you with anything. So that's kind of how I will, if I get an email, I will see it. And I can be found on social media, and my name at our school's website. I think I'm pretty easy to find, but that's the best way to do it. Easy.
Great. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this Connections podcast, Dr. Eady.
Yeah.
And I know that folks are going to be really excited to get to know more about you and to work with you in this way when SWACDA comes around in February for Denver. So we're looking forward to this conference and having you with us.
Well, thank you, man. This is really fun. And if it's okay with you, I'm absolutely going to steal this idea and do this maybe for our fall state conference coming up or something in Michigan, with our clinicians or guests or whoever. If it's okay with you, I'm going to steal this idea. This is a great idea.
Heck yeah, man. Well, we stole a little bit from, Eastern as well. And I'm still learning how to do this. I'm not a great interviewer, but we're
No, you
figuring
did
it out.
great. You did great.
Well, thanks, man. But we're figuring it out and trying to get some content out there so that folks can
Yeah.
get excited. So yeah, I think it'd be a great thing for y'all too.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, man. And no, it was great. You did great. This was easy. Perfect.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, and I'm going to stop the recording here.
All right.